Hello, my name is Chris and today I'm going to share with you 4 quick and simple techniques that you can use right now to prevent a relapse that you're convinced is going to happen, that it feels like right around the corner, that it is imminent, that you are going to relapse any moment, but you really don't want to. This is for those times when you are struggling, when you are clinging on to sobriety or smoke-free living by the skin of your teeth. When you get that psychological, physical compulsion that is almost paralysing and it feels torturous and you feel like the only way to end this torture is to pick up whatever substance it may be. Yes, this is one of those videos where when I talk about relapsing, I talk about it as it pertains to all addictive substances. So cigarettes, alcohol, food, pornography, drugs, you name it. The techniques I'm going to share with you work for all of those, because even though it feels like the only way to end the torture is to pick up that addictive substance, it isn't. And there are other things that we can do instead. I noticed online there is a lot of advice, and a lot of it is very good, about preventing a relapse, but it's all long term, it's all stuff that you can do day to day to build up your defences, to strengthen your sobriety, to strengthen your smoke-free living, so that you stay as far away from even considering a relapse as possible. And it's all good advice, and I may do a video on that at a later time if you guys would like me to go through it. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about those times when you are desperate, when you are clinging on by the skin of your teeth. Basically, if you will pardon my language, we are talking about when shit hits the fan and you just feel like I'm going to relapse and there's no two ways about it. Have you ever been in that state? Perhaps you're in that state now. I know I certainly have. In that place where it is absolutely paralysing, when all my thoughts and all my actions are revolved around it, and I feel stuck in like this small little world around me where the only thing in that world is me and either a cigarette or alcohol. And yet deep down I don't want that. I want to remain sober and smoke free. I've been there and I've lived and I've survived to tell the tale. And now I am over 5.5 years sober, coming up for 2 years smoke free. So some of the things that I have done must have worked. Because I'm telling you, I have stared a relapse dead in the eye and thought, right, this is it, this is when it all falls apart for me, and yet I'm still here. So today I'm going to share with you just 4 of the things that I used that worked and that were effective for me, that they are quick, simple, and you can use them like immediately. If you want to know what those 4 things are, stick around, we'll fade out, we'll fade up, and we'll do that right now. Okay, so the first thing that we can do is to stop and to rewind and to go back to that event or those circumstances that made us want to give up those addictive substances in the first place. There comes a point for all of us, whether we're drinking, smoking, using drugs, whatever, that we don't give up because life is going wonderfully well and they make us feel happy all the time and everything is perfect. Maybe it started out that way, but if that was the case, none of us would want to give up. There comes a point when we hit rock bottom, when using, when smoking, when drinking does us more harm than good. And we need to go back to that time and remember very vividly, very clearly what it was like. For me, I was lucky that my last cigarette was awful. It was so disgusting. I coughed and I choked until I literally threw up all over my kitchen floor. I know it sounds bizarre to say that I was lucky to have that happen, but I can go back and I can remember that very vividly. And I think, well, okay, if I'm ever tempted to smoke again, I can. But that's what awaits for me. Throwing up and choking, that's what smoking is. Smoking is never going to be this nice, wonderful, lovely thing again. It is going to be choking and coughing and spluttering. With drinking, for me there wasn't an isolated incident, though I know for many people that it is. For me it was a series of terrible consequences and damages, and the way I felt, the way I looked, the shit that my life had become. And if I'm ever tempted to drink, I take myself back to that. That is what waits for me. And I see this and I blow it up into this huge picture that I see on like a huge movie screen. And it's like watching a horror film in which I am the main victim. Not that I'm saying I'm a victim, just for this analogy, I see this huge horror film of all the crap that awaits if I relapse. And then I can start to play this movie forward and see that, yes, okay, if I did relapse, I would end up at that terrible situation, but that's the start of the movie. Things start to get a lot worse from there. Because I drink, I smoke, and then that sets off that craving again. And so then I drink, I smoke again and again, and before I know it, I'm back to where I started and I'm hooked. And then if I decide to quit again, then I have to go through all those awful things that I went through when I quit the last time. Plus it gets worse because now I've got to go and tell people. All those people that were rooting for me, all those people that supported me, that loved me, I have to go to them and look them in the eye and say, I messed up, I relapsed again. And I'm not saying that the people who love and support you aren't going to keep loving and supporting you, because yes they are, but it isn't about them. You know the feeling that I'm talking about when I say, when you have to go to someone and say, I relapsed, I messed up. You feel guilty, you feel a bit ashamed, you feel foolish maybe. I shared with you last year, I went through a tough time where a friend of mine passed away and then two of my grandparents passed away pretty close together, and it was hard and I wasn't entirely sure if I was going to make it without relapsing. At the time I'd already started making these videos a little more regularly, and I knew for me that if I relapsed I would have to turn this camera on and stand here and tell you, look, I relapsed. And the thought of that sometimes was enough to make me think, no, I don't want that. I want to play the other movie where that doesn't happen. I want to play the movie where I stand my ground and I survive this terrible feeling that I'm going through. And we can do that too. Having played this movie through of how awful it is going to be when we relapse, change the image on the big cinema screen to an image, to a movie where we survive, where we get through to the other side of these feelings. And we emerge from this and we are stronger, and we know that because we've survived this feeling, we can survive anything. We know that because we've survived this, we are going to continue on our journey and get stronger and fitter and happier and healthier and all that good stuff. I can focus on that positive movie. And suddenly thinking about, creating that big bright picture of how much better I am going to be for not relapsing, that gives me the motivation, that gives me the inspiration to stick with it and to get through it. The second thing that I can do here is to play the waiting game, to delay the decision. This is helpful when I reach that point when it seems like the only way out of the pain and suffering that I'm feeling right now is to relapse. And I feel like it's the one thing that's going to make me feel, even though we all know that's not true, when we get sucked into things, it can feel like, okay, I need to do this. but I don't need to do it right now this second. I'm going to play a game. I'm going to wait 1 hour. I might even get my phone and set a 60-minute timer on my phone. And when that 60-minute elapses, if I feel exactly the same way, then okay, I can relapse. 60 minutes pass. Often that is long enough for the feeling itself to pass, for us to find a way out of the situation, out of the way we're feeling, and to never be tempted again. Sometimes 60 minutes may pass and we may think, okay, well, I do feel exactly the same as I did 60 minutes ago. But I still don't have to act on that decision. I'm going to delay it another hour. And if another hour passes and I still feel the same way, then I can act on it. If I can't do an hour, I might play the waiting game in 30-minute intervals. Okay, let's wait 30 minutes. If 30 minutes elapses and I still feel exactly the same way, I can delay it. 30 minutes elapses, okay, I'm going to wait another 30 minutes, another 15 minutes, another 10 minutes, another 5 minutes, whatever works to just delay taking action for as long as possible. And this isn't just delaying the inevitable. What this does is the longer we play this game for, the longer we say to ourselves, okay, I'm just going to give it this amount of time, we put a bigger distance between ourselves and the actual relapse. And in that distance, anything can happen. We can find a different way out of the way we're feeling without relapsing. We can talk to a friend, which I'll speak about in a minute. It may just be that the passage of time in itself is enough to make the feeling, the desire, the compulsion, the paralysing feeling of needing to relapse enough to let it go away. Sometimes it might just be that we delay for so long and then we fall asleep. And then we wake up and actually feel better. And that brings me to the third thing that we can do, which is to take care of ourselves physically. Often I have found so many times that I have been almost going absolutely out of my mind crazy and convinced that the only way to change the way I would feel would be to relapse. And it turned out that all I needed was a hot shower, some vegetables and an early night's sleep. So first I'm going to look at, is this feeling that I'm feeling now really an urge or a desperate compulsion to drink alcohol or use cigarettes? Or is there something else physically going on with me? Am I tired? Am I stressed? Am I just hungry? So I'll eat and I'll sleep and I'll rest. Like I say, I always find a good hot shower really helps me. With food, I don't recommend junk food because especially sugary stuff, you can get the sugar highs and the sugar lows, and that's almost as bad as being in the relapse state. But if it's either eat a packet of sweets and some soda or drink and smoke, get the sweets. But 9 times out of 10 I would recommend like healthy foods, like taking good care of your body. Give it what it needs to feel okay. And oftentimes that will be enough just to make those feelings pass. Yes, I am saying if you feel like relapsing, go and take a nap first. Steam some vegetables, go shower. Go get some fresh air. See how that helps. The fourth and final quick technique that we can use if we are desperately clinging on to avoid a relapse. Lots of people will give you advice about using distraction techniques like going for a run. I've just said it then, like go and get some fresh air and stuff like that. Going for a run, getting exercise. I made a video a while back about dealing with the withdrawal symptoms from smoking, and I mentioned this then, that use something like that to get the dopamine going, to get the endorphins going, to change the way you feel that way. And I stand by that advice. But the situation that we are talking about today, we are talking when you are paralysed by the feeling of needing to relapse. And I don't know about you, but I found that when I am in that situation, it is almost, if not entirely, impossible to change my mindset from being compelled to relapse to, okay, I'm going to put my running shoes on and go for a run. I'm sure there are ways to change the mindset, but I have not mastered them yet by any stretch. I would love to, but I haven't. If I get in that mindset, it is literally a one-track mind, and all I'm thinking about is that. So yeah, there is no way I'm going to be in any mental state to put my running shoes on and go for a run or go to the gym. So distraction in that way isn't going to work for me. But what is going to work is, instead of distracting myself, to tackle the problem head on, to face it, to deal with it, to get it out, and to talk it through. Ideally, I will have a friend or a support group, or even just someone on Facebook that I can message and just say, look, I'm having a really tough time. I'm on my knees, I'm hanging on to my sobriety, to my smoke-free living by the skin of my teeth, and I just want to talk about how I'm feeling or how this came about. If there is nobody that you can actually talk to, phone up, speak to online, I found, in fact I will show you, it's right here, I get my journal and I just write in that, and it's like writing a letter to someone and explaining to them how I'm feeling and what's caused it and where I'm at, and oh my goodness. And this accomplishes two things. One, it's not a distraction because we are thinking about how we're feeling, but it is something that occupies our time. If I've got a pen in one hand or the phone in one hand, or there is someone in front of me speaking to me, I'm not going to actually go out and relapse in that moment. And again, the longer I can withstand it, the longer I can play the waiting game, the more distance I put between myself and needing that relapse. So it keeps us occupied, it keeps us away from actually doing something. Plus, the more we talk it through, the more we get to the root cause of, like, why am I actually feeling like this? This hasn't just come from nowhere, even if I feel it may have done. And we get to the root causes of it, because it might be stress or anger or frustration or problems at work, or girlfriend leaves us or anything like that, and we can get to the root cause and deal with that and talk that through and express our feelings and emotions about that. And then when we do that, we come out of the other side with a lot more clarity, feeling a lot better about the situation itself. And this has the added benefit of, not only does it prevent a relapse now, it also means that we start to be able to tackle these bigger feelings and prevent ourselves from getting into this situation in the first place again. Those are the four things that I use time and time again whenever I find myself in these situations. Thankfully, it has been I felt great all year and haven't had to rely on these techniques, but I have done along certain parts of my journey, and I found them to be very effective. Think back, play the movie forward. What's going to happen if I smoke or drink? What's going to happen if I don't? I don't know about you, but I like the movie when I don't. Or I play the waiting game and I say, okay, I'll do it in an hour's time, and then another hour, until I play this game for so long the feeling passes. Or I shower, or I eat, or I take a nap, and I look after my body. Or I speak about it, or I write about it, or in my case I come and make a video and talk to you. That's always an option. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that if nothing else, we have delayed a relapse for like the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes, however long it's been. Thank you very much for watching. I'm not a big fan of doing videos in this location anymore, because I always find it difficult to get the lighting right and the focus right and all the rest of it, but we've had fun today, right? If you have found this video helpful, please do leave me a comment and let me know below, or share your tips, tricks and techniques for avoiding relapses with myself and other people who watch my videos. I do always read all the comments I get, and I do try to reply to all of them. As of late, there's been that many comments that I'm behind on replying to you. I'm going to do it whilst this video is uploading. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Likes and shares are always appreciated, and for more videos like this every single week, please do consider subscribing. That's all I've got for you for now. I will see you next time.